The 1970s transformed American dining with creativity, convenient dishes that made every meal feel special. Today, we're exploring 25 forgotten side dishes from the 1970s that deserve a comeback. 1. Watergate salad. Let's start with the side dish that could have testified before Congress. Watergate salad. Yep, the one with the pistachio pudding, Cool Whip, marshmallows, and canned fruit. It looked like someone dropped a cloud in a bowl of highlighters. And we loved it. Legend says it got its name because it was full of nuts and covered up. That's not a recipe, that's an autobiography. Still, every church potluck and family gathering in the 70s had a bowl of this neon green mystery. Was it a salad? Was it dessert? Nobody cared. It was sweet, creamy, and suspiciously addictive. Moms loved it because it took 5 minutes and 0 actual cooking skills, and somehow that shade of green screamed luxury. Today, it'd trend on TikTok as retro pistachio fluffcore. The 1970s gave us Watergate salad, and it's the only scandal everyone wanted seconds of. If you thought that was wild, wait until you see how vegetables got fancier than disco pants in the next dish. 2. Carrot ring. Meet carrot ring, the side dish that said, "Sure, I'm a vegetable, but make me fashion." Picture pureed carrots baked in a ring mold, often with peas or something artfully placed in the center. It was the edible jewelry of the dinner table. In every Southern Junior League cookbook, this was the showstopper. The bright orange ring looked like it belonged on a 70s coffee table between shag carpet and a crystal ashtray. Sweet, buttery, and slightly nutty, it was the perfect disguise for parents trying to sneak veggies past picky eaters. And the presentation? Iconic. One flip of the mold and boom, elegance. Today, we'd call it carrot bunt, but back then, it was culinary couture. Speaking of molded magnificence, the next dish was less about glamour and more about gelatin, because the 70s had an obsession with jiggly vegetables. 3. Tomato aspic. You haven't truly lived 1970s cuisine until you've seen tomato aspic wobble onto a plate. Imagine tomato juice and unflavored gelatin turned into a shimmering red dome, often garnished with a dollop of mayo like a bizarre crown jewel. This was fine dining, darling. Country clubs and summer luncheons loved it. It was tangy, savory, and slightly alarming, like if tomato soup decided to audition for a Jell-O commercial. Unmolding one was an Olympic sport. One wrong move, and it'd slide onto the carpet faster than you could say celery salt. But when done right, it was a masterpiece. The cool, firm texture and bright tomato tang somehow worked. Sure, modern tastes have moved on, but there's something mesmerizing about a salad that wiggles back when you poke it. From gelatin to glow-up, our next dish took vegetables and made them creamy, dreamy, and surprisingly addictive. 4. Broccoli rice casserole. Here's one you could smell from the driveway. Broccoli rice casserole. Frozen broccoli, instant rice, mushroom soup, and a flood of melted cheese. It was creamy comfort in a casserole dish. And it made broccoli a national hero. If you saw this at a potluck, you knew someone's mom meant business. The crunchy Ritz cracker topping was the mic drop moment. You'd dig in thinking you were getting something healthy, then realize you were basically eating melted cheese with green confetti. This dish turned skeptics into believers and vegetables into celebrities. Every bite tasted like a warm hug from 1977. Cheesy, slightly salty, unapologetically indulgent. Forget kale smoothies. This was the vegetable dish that made America say, "More, please." But not every side was molten cheese and comfort. Some were bright, tangy, and shockingly pink. Let's talk about the side that doubled as a conversation starter and a science experiment. 5. Pickled beets and eggs. Step aside. Deviled eggs. Pickled beets and eggs had the color coordination of a disco outfit and the attitude to match. Hard-boiled eggs soaked for days in beet juice until they turned a shocking shade of magenta. They were part snack, part art installation. Line them up on a platter, and suddenly your 1975 dinner looked like a Vogue spread. The vinegar tang hit first, then the earthy beet flavor. It was bold, beautiful, and briny perfection. These little orbs were staples at bars, diners, and every Pennsylvania Dutch gathering worth attending. Plus, they made beer taste better, a scientifically unproven but universally accepted fact. Forget avocado toast. These were the original Instagrammable eggs. Coming up next, if you thought pink eggs were bold, the next dish turned humble carrots into the bling of the buffet table. 6. Copper pennies. Before you scroll, no, we're not talking about loose change. Copper pennies were carrot slices marinated in a sweet and sour tomato dressing so tangy they could wake the dead. These little coins of glory shimmered in every Tupperware container across suburban America. They were make-ahead magic, perfect for the hostess who had 6 kids, a potluck at 5, and no patience for last-minute anything. The secret was tomato soup, vinegar, and sugar, creating a flavor combo that was equal parts zesty and zippy. Even better, they aged like fine wine, or, well, carrots in marinade. The longer they sat, the better they tasted. Their bright color lit up buffet tables like edible sunshine. And if you think marinated carrots were bold, wait until we meet the dish that turned dinner into an Olympic-level balancing act of fruit and cream. 7. Ambrosia salad. Ambrosia salad wasn't just a side dish, it was a lifestyle, a heavenly mix of coconut, marshmallows, and canned fruit that somehow ended up next to the turkey instead of after dessert. Southern grandmothers called it food of the gods, and you'd better believe they said it with reverence. Each family guarded its version like a sacred scroll. Some swore by mandarin oranges, others added grapes, cherries, or sour cream for that holy tang. Ambrosia was proof that in the 70s, the line between dinner and dessert was thin and covered in Cool Whip. It looked like a tropical cloud explosion and tasted like nostalgia in 3D. Now that we've worshipped at the altar of whipped cream and fruit, let's rewind to something earthy, tangy, and unexpectedly academic. 8. Harvard beets. Meet the overachiever of the vegetable world, Harvard beets. Sweet, sour, and dressed to impress, they came coated in a glossy red glaze that looked like a chemistry experiment gone right. The sauce? A smooth mix of vinegar and sugar that turned simple beets into a culinary mic drop. Every spoonful had that perfect sweet and tangy rhythm, like Motown, but edible. Their deep crimson hue made them the Harvard of the dinner table, elite, elegant, and a little extra. They were fancy without being fussy, colorful without being chaotic. And honestly, they deserve a diploma in deliciousness. But speaking of colorful ambition, the next dish is pure visual chaos, the gelatin masterpiece that defined every 1970s dinner party. 9. Salad perfection, aka vegetable aspic. Let's talk salad perfection, the dish that made vegetables bounce. Imagine diced celery, carrots, and peppers suspended in clear gelatin like ancient fossils in amber. The result? A salad that shimmied harder than John Travolta at Studio 54. Every ladies' luncheon featured one. It took confidence and a lot of fridge space to unmold this baby without disaster. The trick was perfect cubes of veggies and a gelatin base that somehow made vinegar taste Chic, home easy classes even taught this. It wasn't just food, it was sculpture. 10. Corn pudding. If you've never had corn pudding, imagine if cornbread and custard had a delicious buttery baby. Golden on top, creamy underneath, and impossibly comforting. It was a Southern staple, showing up at every family reunion, church supper, and Sunday dinner that mattered. You could smell it baking and instantly know someone's grandma was showing off again. Each spoonful was silky smooth, with just enough sweetness to make you forget you were technically eating a vegetable. It was the warm, golden heart of every Southern spread, proof that simple ingredients could taste like home. 11. 7-layer salad. Let's be honest, 7-layer salad was the 1970s version of edible architecture. Layers of lettuce, peas, onions, cheese, bacon, and mayo stacked in a glass bowl so perfect it deserved its own museum exhibit. This wasn't just salad, it was presentation. You could see every layer glistening like a rainbow of cholesterol. It made dinner guests gasp, "Oh my, who brought that?" Which is all a host ever really wants. The genius move? Sealing it with a thick layer of mayo to keep everything fresh. 12. Stuffed celery. Before crudité boards and TikTok snack spreads, there was stuffed celery, the elegant, no-nonsense appetizer that said, "I own 3 Pyrex trays and I mean business." Picture crisp celery stalks filled with cream cheese mixed with olives, blue cheese, or pimentos. It was retro chic, fresh, crunchy, and just fancy enough to say cocktail hour. Hostesses would fan them out on crystal relish trays beside carrot curls and radish roses. It was edible interior design. 13. Marinated mushrooms. Meet the unsung hero of every 1970s relish tray. Marinated mushrooms. They were zesty, herby, and lived in the fridge like tiny flavor bombs waiting for guests. Whole button mushrooms bathed in Italian dressing until they soaked up enough vinegar and garlic to power a small village. They showed up everywhere: antipasto platters, salad bars, and dinner parties where people wore polyester with confidence. 14. Glorified rice. The name says it all. Glorified rice. Because plain rice was apparently too humble for the 1970s. This was the dessert salad hybrid nobody asked for but everyone devoured. Cold rice mixed with whipped cream, crushed pineapple, marshmallows, and cherries. It sounded confusing but tasted like a church potluck miracle. It was sweet, creamy, and just chaotic enough to work. This was the dish that showed Midwestern cooks could make dessert out of literally anything. 15. German potato salad, the warm bacon, miracle. Forget mayo, German potato salad said, "Let's dress these spuds in bacon fat and call it gourmet." Warm, tangy, and smoky, it was the bold cousin of your picnic standby. Each bite had that vinegar kick and crispy bacon crunch that made it irresistible. Coming up, the next 5 dishes are proof that when it came to side dishes, the 70s didn't do simple. They did extra, shiny, and proudly weird. 16. Scalloped tomatoes. If you ever wondered what comfort food looked like before mac and cheese took over, meet scalloped tomatoes. The casserole that turned leftover bread into pure, buttery magic. Fresh or canned tomatoes baked with cubes of bread, sugar, and butter until bubbling and golden. The result? Tangy, sweet, toasty perfection. It smelled like summer, looked like a sunset, and tasted like a hug from your grandma. 17. Green bean casserole. Every Thanksgiving table from 1955 through 1979 had one sacred truth. Someone brought green bean casserole, and it was probably the best part of the meal. French-cut green beans, cream of mushroom soup, and a blizzard of fried onions. It was crunchy, creamy, and pure edible nostalgia. Campbell's may have invented it, but America perfected it. Every mom added her twist: almonds, cheese, even water chestnuts if she felt bold. It was the dish that could travel across states in a Pyrex without losing its soul. The best part? That moment when you dig in and hit the perfect bean-to-crunch ratio? It's the sound of comfort food winning. 18. Rice pilaf. Long before quinoa bowls or jasmine rice took center stage, there was rice pilaf, the side dish that whispered sophistication at every dinner table. Home cooks browned vermicelli and rice in butter, tossed in broth, herbs, and maybe some almonds if they were feeling fancy. The result? Fluffy, golden rice that paired with literally anything. It was the I Read Gourmet magazine once, of side dishes, refined yet approachable. 19. Succotash. Ah, succotash, the ultimate southern comfort. Corn and lima beans simmered in butter until creamy, colorful, and downright addictive. It was proof that simplicity could sing. Some cooks threw in okra, bacon, or tomatoes, while others kept it classic with just corn, beans, and butter doing a two-step in the skillet. The name comes from a Native American word meaning boiled corn, but by the 1970s, it was practically a side dish celebrity. You couldn't have a soul food spread without it. It's the kind of dish that doesn't need reinvention, just a comeback. Warm, buttery, humble perfection that pairs with everything from fried chicken to barbecue ribs. But if buttery beans sound too tame, let's crank up the nostalgia with something glossy, creamy, and criminally underrated. 20. Creamed onions. Creamed onions were the unspoken hero of every holiday dinner. Tiny pearl onions swimming in a velvety white sauce, so rich it practically wore a fur coat. They were buttery, sweet, and perfectly old school. The kind of side dish that said, Julia Child would approve. Every bite was delicate but decadent, like fine dining disguised as comfort food. A sprinkle of nutmeg or parmesan took it from simple to sublime. 21. Waldorf salad. Before avocado toast and kale took over the brunch scene, there was Waldorf salad, the dish that made apples feel classy. Crisp apples, celery, walnuts, and mayo, that's it. A crunchy, creamy masterpiece born in a New York hotel and perfected in every suburban kitchen by 1975. 22. Spinach soufflé. Before green smoothies, there was spinach soufflé, and baby, it slayed. This was spinach like you've never seen it, airy, cheesy, and baked into golden perfection. It wasn't just a vegetable, it was an experience. Moms proudly served it at dinner parties as the sophisticated side, because anything baked in a ramekin automatically had main character energy. 23. Cheese ball accompaniments. We all remember the iconic cheese ball, but what about its loyal sidekicks? The crackers, veggies, and cute little spreaders that made the whole show work. In the 70s, these weren't random afterthoughts, they were curated artistry. You'd see celery sticks, Triscuits, rye crisps, and bell pepper strips, all fanned out like a glamorous snack parade. 24. Zucchini bread. When gardens overflowed with zucchini in the summer, 1970s cooks didn't panic, they baked it. Enter zucchini bread, the savory, sweet miracle loaf that made vegetables cool. Grated zucchini added perfect moisture, while cheese, herbs, and a touch of sugar balanced it all out. 25. 3-bean salad. Let's end with a classic, 3-bean salad. It was the potluck MVP, green beans, wax beans, and kidney beans soaking in a sweet tart vinaigrette that hit every nostalgic nerve. Toss in onions, bell peppers, maybe a few chickpeas if you were wild, and you had perfection in a bowl. It was bright, tangy, and, best of all, indestructible. So there you have it. 25 forgotten side dishes from the 1970s we desperately want back. From gelatin glory to casserole chaos, these recipes weren't just food, they were personality. Maybe it's time to dust off those old cookbooks, break out the Pyrex, and bring a little disco back to dinner. If this nostalgic feast made you hungry for more, hit that like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments. Which 1970s side dish are you resurrecting first? Because one thing's for sure, dinner was never boring when it jiggled, bubbled, or came covered in cheese.